A very good evening to you, our esteemed viewer. It is Family Hour. Today is a Thursday, and we are here with our Leadership and Governance edition of the program. Edwin Austin Mukalas is my name, and the panelists are already here, and we are excited to hear from them. But before we get into today's discussion, I would like to remind you that the Interreligious Council of Uganda, in partnership with the Global Peace Foundation and the government of Uganda, have organized the Interreligious Family Day Festival, Family Festival 2024, celebrating family, faith, and freedom under one God of Africa's Renaissance. The date is 29th June 2024 at Kololo Independence Grounds. Come enjoy a unique blend of Africa and local religious music, diverse workshops for youth, families, and leaders, plus arts, food stalls, and health services. The guest of honor will be His Excellency the President and Mama, with past presidents, cultural and religious leaders from Africa, parents, youth, and women of faith. So, all religious leaders, youth, fathers and mothers unions, and those who believe in the divine gift of family are invited. The gates shall be open at exactly 8 a.m. until late, and that means that lunch will also be provided at a free cost. Therefore, don't miss this big event, 29th of June at Kololo Independence Grounds. Make it a point to be there. Now, getting back to our discussion today, we shall talk about the role of old leaders towards raising new leaders. Now, who are the old leaders and who are the new leaders? This is a debate. If you want to take it political, there are very many arguments out there of who is an old leader and who is a new leader. But we shall bring it back to the institutional leadership. With us is Dr. Patricia, as usual. Dr. Patricia, today you look humble.
Usually I'm very humble. It's Diana who keeps disturbing me and there. But I present myself as a very humble person.
Okay.
Good evening, viewers. I'm very happy to be part of this conversation, and I consider myself an older leader because I know we have a responsibility of grooming young leaders.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Diana, now that you're the one, and we also see you humbling yourself, so I don't know whether it is intended or because Dr. Patricia talked about it. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Adrian. It's good to be here. Good evening, viewers. I am always humble. You know, humility comes from the heart.
Okay.
I don't know about Dr. Patricia, but I'm always humble. You know, they used to say people claim to be humble and not humble. Today I'm the first person to claim to be humble and very humble.
Diana, please wait for the viewers to make comments on whether it is you who is humble. It's definitely we would vote.
Exactly. Well, which kind of leader are you? A new leader or an old leader?
I think I'm a cross in between. I always believe I'm a cross in between because there are certain styles about the old that I deeply appreciate and encourage.
Okay.
And I am all for new. So I feel that I am the brink, I am at the line, the John the Baptist, the crossing, the crossing over. I'm neither in the old, I'm not necessarily in the new. It seems like we are the transition. We are the transition people. So that's where I find myself.
Okay. Well, Dr. Patricia, now that you said you are a proud old leader. What are the attributes of an old leader?
Well, for me, I am a leader in progress, and I'm work in progress, but I consider myself old because I see the number of people who I'm lifting as leaders, young leaders out there. That's why I consider myself an old leader who is still work in progress because I keep learning and relearning new leadership skills. You asked me a question. Would you like to repeat it again?
The attributes of an old leader.
An old leader. An old leader basically is somebody who is deeply rooted in values. And it all starts from home, from family. An old leader is able to raise his or her children with values of respect, of love, of compassion, so that when they grow up, they emulate exactly that out there. Because values, first of all, play a very significant role when it comes to the dynamics within both the family and the older and the broader community out there. Because if you don't get this from family, then you have nothing to present out there. And that is why we see some of the leadership mistakes happening today. Because when you look at it, pull the conversation out from the family context, you find that the older leaders serve as a foundation. They serve as a foundation upon which the younger leaders can tap from. By inculcating these values in the younger leader, they are able to build strong relationships. They help to establish norms and beliefs and principles that govern the behavior of the younger leaders. So when you talk about attributes, in terms of attributes, you find that this relationship between the older leaders and the younger leaders is very, very crucial, especially for success and for continuity. For instance, the older leaders play a very important role when it comes to issues to do with mentorship. They offer guidance. They serve. They can serve the young leaders by providing guidance, by sharing knowledge and experiences, and even offering advice on how they can go about, especially in their leadership, in decision making, on how they can navigate the challenges of life and take advantage of the opportunities out there in their careers. So when you look at mentorship, the mentorship role of the older leaders is very, very important to the young leaders, because it can help them to grow, to learn new skills, and also develop professionally as leaders. The older leaders also provide coaching as one of the attributes. Older leaders can act as coaches for the younger leaders by helping them to set goals, by helping them to identify their strengths, by helping them in areas where they need improvement, and in so doing, they develop strategies to achieve their objectives. So you find that through coaching, the younger leaders are able to enhance even their performance and leadership capabilities within themselves. So the older leaders basically have got those attributes. They offer mentorship, they offer coaching, they share their wisdom and experience. They bring the years of experience and wisdom to the table, which is quite valuable, especially for the young people to learn from. Traditionally, we had the fireplace thing where people would sit with their grandparents and get stories, and they share their experiences of what it was they used to do during their time. So the growing young leaders can be able to learn and know that this was very, very important. First of all, for people to learn their traditions, their culture, their norms, the values expected of them, and they can share insights, lessons, and even from their own experiences and the success stories. So the older leaders really play a very, very pivotal role, especially in shaping the young leaders and helping them to be able to grow and navigate the challenges of life along the way. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Patricia. Then, now that you are a blend of the two, what are some of the traits that present with the new leaders?
Very interesting question. I think that the new leaders are more dynamic, per se, as opposed to the old who are very traditional. More very traditional. You'd find that the old leadership said, do as I say, and not as I do. Yeah. The new leadership will say, do as I do and be as I be. So what they are saying is that do not emulate what you don't see in me. If you see it in me, then emulate it. The old leadership was, when your parents say, I have told you to do something, do it. Now, whether your parents did it or not, it wasn't up to you. They went to bed at whatever time they wanted, but you were supposed to go to bed at a particular time. And so if you question, at least our generation, if you questioned growing up, you'd be clamped down on. So you see that there's a sort of shift in the dynamic in the way people are handling leadership. It's no longer do what I say, but do as I do. And that shows you a different dynamic from where we are. In the beginning, much earlier on, you could not question an old leadership. Based on what? You could not answer them, you could not do anything. And so that leads us to the second trait, which is lead by fear as opposed to lead by love. I think that the generation that grew up was taught to lead by fear. When I first thought of becoming a leader, the aspect of being feared, you ruled by fear, you ruled by control, is what disadvantaged me, or I did not think was the thing that attracted me to leadership. And so in the new kind of leadership, people are more able to lead by love. They lead because they care about people. People matter in the grand scheme of things. It's people that are in touch with the systems, people that are in touch with the world, they're in touch with the progress of things and different things that are happening. And so that leadership trait now is leadership by love. People matter. People are at the center of what you do. And the other trait, those days the leader would say, follow me. And this one is more, our new style always says, follow you. It's not necessarily about do what you want to do, but it's saying I'm bringing you into the fold where it's collaboration in how we lead. In the beginning, the leader used to say, I have said this, or the older leaders say, I have said this, and do it. They came down with the vision and said, this is the vision, this is what we expect, these are things that we expect of you. But the new leadership is going to sit and discuss, saying, what did we fail at last year? Why did we fail at it last year? Is there something that we can improve on? And so the leadership that you have these days is changing the dynamic. It's no longer leadership just centered in one person. It's leadership centered in success of everybody. And so for me, that's the trait that is shaping the new leadership, which I think is the way to go.
Okay. Thank you so much for that submission. Now, Dr. Patricia, you overemphasized mentorship and how the old leadership or the old leaders have that task of mentoring the new leaders. But how can the new leaders learn from the successes and failures of the old leaders?
First of all, when you look at the old leaders, through mentorship, of course, they model the way for the young leaders, but they also offer opportunities to learn from their own experiences. The older leaders create opportunities for the younger leaders to be able to take the new challenges and the projects and showcase their skills and abilities. How do they do this? By sharing those experiences, by showing the younger leaders how they did things during their time, by helping the younger leaders emulate some of the tricks, the leadership skills they used to apply during their time, and they provide opportunities for growth and also for advancement for the younger leaders, because they can help nurture the next generation of leaders. You realize that today, when we talk about the young leaders, there is a lot of disrespect, there is a lot of pomp, and there's a lot of greed and selfishness, because they are not nurtured and mentored in that direction. But if they can keep tapping, if they can keep taking every opportunity to consult with the older leaders, then they get that kind of guidance. I'll share with you an experience. I was facing a situation which was like being between a rock and a hard thing in one of my assignments, and on the countryside. And I traveled to Kabale, and the situation was so tense, where there was going to be a hostile exchange between a contractor, the district technocrats, and the community who are the beneficiaries. Now, I went to Kabale the evening before that engagement. The meeting was set, and remember, I'm the one supposed to be in charge of the meeting. So when I go to Kabale, of course, I prayed about it, and I was like, no, I think if I go and handle this, it may be a bad story where I have arrested people for failure to deliver. I have, embarrassed myself and so on. But I decided to go and visit one of the older leaders down in the hills of Kabale, Dr. and Mrs. Nkwasiwe. And I told them, I'm experienced. No. They then gave me, for us previously, you sit at a round table and agree where the disagreements, you sort it out. And I was able to get the guidance. It was able to help me calm down. The following day when I went for the meeting, Edwin, you can't believe what went on. Everybody was calm. Of course, we began by arguing here and there, but calmness descended, and we were able to resolve lots of things. Today, as I see, there is progress, because I tapped on the wisdom of an elder, of the older people. Then the older leaders basically also help to foster that culture of learning, that learning culture. They help to foster that culture of learning, continuous learning, by giving the advice. Of course, not all the advice of older leaders are taken. Some people will say they're a bit primitive, they are archaic, they don't have the new styles and methods of doing things. But there was discipline then. Growing up, a young person would not be seated on the bus, on the seat of the bus, and an old man or a person with disability is standing around. It would be automatic that the young person gets up and the elder takes the seat. Today there is swag all over the place. And that is the demeanor within which some of them get into leadership. It can start from campus because he has a lot of money, he has a lot of liquidity, he can pay and buy and bribe and gets into the leadership position. But if he's there, then what? Is he able to bring these leadership attributes and skills and be able to carry out his responsibilities very well? Leadership by the older leaders also helps in building relationships. Younger leaders build valuable relationships within the organization and even outside the organization, through networking, through collaboration, through relationship building skills, which are basically essential, especially for success of leaders. Older leaders basically serve as role models in this regard. If an older person can say he was consulting during his time, consulting with the seniors, then who is the young leader not to consult with seniors and other stakeholders in doing their work? And this is how they tomera and make mistakes, because they have their rival syndrome. Someone has gotten into this position of responsibility, so they begin doing things the way they feel, without the heart for the people they're serving. And previously we talked about leadership being a service. We are basically servants for the others. We're not supposed to take those high seats. We're supposed to be ushered through. But you find a young leader today, when they get into a function, they rush for that front seat because it comes with pomp. Then the older leadership, again, also help, especially like in succession planning. Succession planning in grooming and preparing this person, young as he is, to take on when the older ones retire or leave the earth. They play a key role in succession planning by identifying and developing the young talent in the young people, and they take on leadership roles in future while they are ready, because the older ones would have done that part. But when we're just left to take on without this kind of planning and so on, it becomes a total mess, because when the person gets there, he thinks it's all his and he's supposed to be there packerless without training or grooming others.
Doctor, so is this succession on merit anymore? The succession in leadership?
It depends on the position of leadership, which institution, and the environment, and several factors surrounding. Okay. Yes. Because, for instance, in Rotary, the president takes on for just 1 year, Rotary and Rotaract. After a year, he hands over to another, and it is a given. Yes. So I think it depends on the institution. Some people say, well, you will serve for 3 years, another 4 years. Like mine is 4 years, but it's about to get finished. I'll probably hand over to Diana. So I was saying, when we invest in the development of young leaders, older leaders can ensure the smooth transition of leaders and prepare the younger ones to take on the leadership roles. Because they will have walked the journey with them, they will have mentored and modeled the way, they will have emulated what it is they're supposed to demonstrate as leaders. So I think it is very, very important for the young leaders to always tag along the older leaders, because there is a lot to learn. Even when someone has retired and already gone, he has gone, but he's a think tank, rich with so many ideas. He has got institutional history, which should not be left to die. That's why, for me, I believe in having a mix of the senior, the middle age, and the young ones, because there is a lot to learn when they work together. There's a lot to learn from the senior ones and emulate on the middle age leaders and the younger ones. Yes.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I had a number of questions, but I'll limit
Please
them. But then we are in an era where some new leaders, if I can put, have lost trust in the old leaders. Yet, they are supposed to pick up the mentorship from them. Now, how do the old leaders, or how can the old leaders support the new leaders in shaping the vision and their direction?
I think it's time to rewrite the old styles of leadership, old times of leadership. Not everything is a given, and not everything passed the test. But for their time and season, that's what they knew, that's what they practiced, and I believe that that's what worked for them. It doesn't mean that you're going to transport what worked in the past and make it into something that can work in this time. Because whether we like it or not, the generations are changing. People are changing. The baby boomers are now going into retirement. I think, what's the generation after baby boomers? Then you have us, the millennials, who are still now walking into the middle age time of our career. Then you have the Gen Zs who are just entered into the workforce. And so the leadership trajectory is changing. And it's changing because the generations are changing. It's been a long time coming, from baby boomers to millennials, who had a bit of the baby boomers, had a bit of what the generation that came before them, and then now passing on to the Gen Zs. Now, that dynamic cannot be denied. And because you can't deny that dynamic, how you work with them is going to determine whether you pass on the best or the worst. And so to your question, what is it that they can learn? I think they need to be open to learning. You need to be open to learning and to change. Because each and every single one of us is learning. There is something you don't know. There's something you don't know today that you could learn tomorrow. My father used to say, or still says, that as long as you are breathing, you're going to keep learning. There is always room to learn. We know that because we see people who have come before us, and whether they rise to the level of CEO or MD at a young age or not, the people who continue to excel, especially in higher positions at a younger age, are people who are open to learning, open to change. You see, Mark Zuckerberg, he likes to post about the fact that every month he's going to read 2 books, or he's posting about what he's going to do that year. He's going to go to the civil because he's opening his mind to learn. And he's training the people below him to know that there is no end to learning. I may be CEO today, and I have developed so much. I may be among the richest men in the world today, but what keeps me on top of my game is that there's no ceiling to learning. And so that's something that we can pass on. The fact that you need to be open to learning, open to change, the continuous improvement and reimagination of both yourself and the organization is what pushes you forward. The other, which is important, is success is a team effort. It's not a singular effort. Gone are the times when every time the juniors did their work, the boss would come and take credit for it. In the end, especially with the new coming generation, they're not going to stand it. They're not going to take the fact that you're taking the spotlight on their hard bend and work. And so you need to develop a culture where success is a team effort, where you are working together to develop the kind of vision that you want to achieve. I think the man I can think of is the Hoffman, the executive of LinkedIn, who says, when you see a leader walking on water, under him is a team of people holding him up. Or holding her up. It's their age up. In fact, I want to use her now.
Just like you say, that can be so peaceful on top here.
Yes.
But below,
it's
peddling.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when you see a leader that's walking on water, that means they're doing the impossible. They're excelling in what they're doing. They're being exceptional. Underneath that water is a team of people who have decided that the culture they want is a culture of success. And success means that my individual success is interlinked to Dr. Patricia's success. Is interlinked to your success. Because when you look at it in that aspect, then you're delivering the kind of leadership that everybody wants to look up to. And then lastly, for me, is that reputation matters. Reputation matters. It's your brand. I think lately you've been seeing people saying, know your brand yourself. Let people know you for your brand. People know me as a timekeeper. In fact, if I'm delayed, I'll get a call saying, what has happened? What has happened? Everybody knows if I give you my word, I'm going to be there at that time, I will show up. Regardless of what.
I try, but there are instances when I'll try. There are instances when I get delayed, and not by my will.
But you said it, you try.
Yeah, I try.
So it's everybody knows. I used to have this when I lived in an institution. And one time I told them to be there. I needed to be in Entebbe for a function. I told them to be at my home by 6, I think about 6:30. And they came late. Now, I told them, you can't be this late for a function because I want the program to speak. I'm coming second on the program. By the time we are entering into Entebbe, the ambassador is waiting. The heads of institution are waiting. And nobody can start because their speeches come after me. And no one's going to allow me to speak after they have spoken. And so that the organizer calls and says, I know I actually called the organizer myself. I said, by now you know I am running late. I apologize. And he said, I don't know you to be like that. Is something wrong? I said, I deeply apologize. And so I went back to the team that was supposed to pick me and I said, I want a head on a platter today. Why was I late? I don't keep judges, ambassadors, heads of institution waiting. It's tardy on my part, but it's also tardy on us as an institution. And because of that, everybody knew. So the next time I told them to be at my gate at 7, they were there at 6:30. And I looked at them and I said, what time did you get up? They said, and this is the theory that they all had. In the VP's car, we don't mess with time. It was a constant known thing that when it came to me, you never messed with time. Because you see, it's not just my time that matters. I kept an ambassador waiting, a high court judge waiting, head of an institution waiting, and they could not start because I was not there. And so those are things, your reputation matters. Gone are the days where you are a bad boss, everybody knew you were a bad boss, and nobody cared. Now it matters. It matters that people come to an institution and everybody knows Dr. Patricia is that kind of person. Everybody knows. It's a well-known secret. Yeah, it's a well-known secret. Such things matter. And so it also pays for you to build a reputation that you want others to emulate. The scripture says that a good name is better than riches. Your name matters. What you carry matters. You can't put a dead battery with a full battery in a torch and expect it to function. The good battery is going to drain out as fast as possible. So when people go into an institution where the people who are toxic or people who are demotivated, when you put that energy among those people, they're going to drain very easily. And so what you need to learn, especially in the new leadership, is to teach people that your reputation matters. How you treat people matters. How you interact with people matters. And so as a leader is passing on their leadership skills, they need to pass on a very critical point. Your reputation matters at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Dan. We are taking a short commercial break. When we return, we are going to pick it up from there. A take-home phrase, your reputation matters. Yes. We shall be back shortly.